Greetings one and all, this is Lloyd Brown. Welcome social media family to my vlog. It's more than apparent to the fraternity. You're more than aware as the reggae fraternity of the news of the passing of Frankie Dancehall Paul, aka Paul Blake. Now, hearing the news from Thursday and subsequently making a video on a Monday and not posting up anything in relation to his passing in between that time, it's probably making you wonder, well, why? And I'm going to tell you. But before I say anything to that regard, just want to pay my respects and show my condolences to his family and his friends, and I mean his true friends. His true friends. Now, the reason why I didn't post anything, there was more or less like a radio silence where I was concerned of the news, was simply because when I did hear the news, what usually happens when I hear the passing of an entertainer, a musician, in our fraternity, in our reggae fraternity, their music is always at the forefront of my mind, always. Depending on how close we are or how far we are as terms of us being associates and peers. It all depends, do you know what I mean? Because every person's grief is relative, I believe. But my natural thinking had nothing to do with his music. It had everything to do with stuff that made me feel how I felt between Thursday and today. And I didn't want to put up anything on social media to encapsulate the mood that I was feeling at that time, because I thought, well, it needs to be measured, it needs to be tempered, but it also needs to be the truth as well. So here it is. I didn't hear Frankie Paul's music in my head when he passed. All I thought about was the last year of his life. And, pardon my French, fuckery that surrounded it. All of that surrounded him in his life, the last year of his life. It wasn't good. It wasn't nice. And it was more or less culminated with claim and counterclaim and counterclaim. You know, in suggesting, well, it was me that do this for the man, and if me didn't do that for the man, I knew the man when he was potless, where he didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. I knew him when he was like that, and I done what I done for him. It's like, I don't understand and I don't overstand the logic of why you would even say that for what? For him or her to have the sense that they owe you something, or for you to feel it was under your orchestration that the person's in the position that he is in now because of that. And it doesn't make sense to me. And you know what? I'm not going to lean on that misunderstanding, because that to me, pardon my French, is fuckery and it's foolishness. And I abstain from foolishness. I can't deal with that. Do you know what I'm saying? And that is why I believe that the story of our music, reggae music, will not be truthful. It won't be truthful. Simply because of claim and counterclaim and counterclaim. Say, for example, let me ask you this question, right? Who coined the term reggae as a music art form? I guarantee you, you're going to have 20 different answers coming from 20 different people to say, well, I me do it, and I me do it, and I me do it. it doesn't fill my heart with joy when a musical brother like Frankie Dancehall Paul, right, is no longer with us. And prior to all of that shit was going on. It doesn't fill me with anything positive. And that's kind of rare from a musical standpoint. In life, yeah, you know, I can face stuff and be despondent about it, but music will be the one thing that will lift me out, lift me up, carry me through, carry me over. Do you know what I'm saying? Some people have a full-time job and do music as a sideline. I do music full-time. So I go through feast and famine when I work on my music. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, forward to the man, Frankie Dancehall Paul, and my musical knowledge of the brother. Now, I won't say that it's vast. I won't say it's extensive. I have to say that I didn't know the man. I didn't know the man per se. But my one meeting with Frankie Paul, and it wasn't even a meeting because it wasn't a case where I stepped up to him. I was literally in a dressing room, and I think it was a show with him and Gregory Isaacs. And I think one of the guys that promoted the show was a brother called Liver. And I'm sitting down and I'm having a conversation with somebody and just talking about my career. And then out of the blue, Frankie just asked me, what does transition mean? And I said, a change from one to the other. And then he replied, oh. And that was it. That was the only conversation I've ever had with Frankie Paul in my entire life. I just found it strange for him to even ask me that question. But I answered it, and he left it at that. That was my only meeting with the man. Now, from a musical standpoint, I have to say, as much as people loved Sarah, as much as people bought that album by the truckload, I have to tell you something honestly and truthfully. I didn't like that song. I didn't like the song. Not for the way he sang it, not for the content, not for the technical ability Jammies had or Frankie had. It had nothing to do with the song at all. It was based upon the situation I was going through at that time in 1987. I went through an acrimonious breakup. When we say acrimonious in the way and tone and length and diction, I say it, you know, believe it. And Sarah was the soundtrack to that. So every time I hear that song, it reminds me of that situation, of that breakup I had with one of my exes. And it wasn't pretty. So that song doesn't hold good memories for me. But detaching myself from that, I can overs why it was a good song. That album was a good album, the Sarah album. That just broke him, you know what I mean? Worldwide, internationally. But my thing about Frankie Paul was this. He made an album called, I think it was Gimme That Feeling. Gimme, gimme, gimme that feeling. And it was released through Moodisc Records. And there was a tune on that album. I absolutely loved that album. Sorry, let me start again. I absolutely adored that track. You know what I mean? That track was like, it was tear welling, in my opinion. And it was a track called So Soon We Change. And it goes, so soon we change. Now we're looking for a new love. When I heard that track, it was at that point when I realized that if a really good producer was to handle Paul or Frankie, right, handle his vocal abilities and technique and mold it in the right way possible, he would have been humongous, man. He would have been huge. You know, because you can see he was going in that direction. Because obviously he was, you know, he was singing over R&B songs and putting his own little bit in there and what have you. But that song, I don't even know if that song is even a cover that he sang, So Soon We Change. But it's a beautiful song. Beautiful song. And the way he delivered it, it was just, it wasn't as I wouldn't say coarse, but it didn't have that Frankie Paul trademark growl to it. Do you know what I'm saying? It just had that smooth texture to it. And that to me was like the peak of his career for me, personally speaking. Like with Dennis Brown, Love Has Found Its Way. That album was the peak of his career. And then he done Foul Play for A&M Records. And that was like, it was like Love Has Found Its Way, Foul Play. It was just like that for me with Dennis Brown. Give me that feeling for Mood Discs Records. That was the album that really done it for me. And he done a really, really wonderful version of Teddy Pendergrass. It's so good needing somebody when somebody needs you back. But he's sung that song so many times on different rhythms. It just gets lost. It gets lost in the catalogue. You know what I mean? But that version he done on that album was the best for me. So it's with that I'm going to say this. In spite of anything and everything, right? Frankie Paul, Paul Blake, is a musical brother in the family of music. Musicians and singers are blessed by nature, you know. We are blessed by nature. But it's what we do with the talents that we have that will ultimately be judged. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's just sad that we are losing people with such regularity. But then again, I forget the age that I'm at. I'm 53 years old. And I still feel like I'm in my 20s or 30s. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel it. I might not look it, but I feel it. But then you realize that your colleagues and your peers who you highly respect, they're not stuck in a time capsule. They're going through and advancing in life as everybody is, or what have you. And when they pass through whatever cause, it's a sad thing. But I think with Frankie, it was even more sad because of the fuckery that surrounded it. His last year of his life. And it took me a couple of days just to go past that and get back into the musical legacy that Frankie left. And that's all we should really be dealing with. His legacy. At the end of the day. His legacy. Because I don't care what anybody says, right? There's some hardcore Frankie Paul fans out a road, right? And they will forever be playing his music. I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore Frankie Paul fan, but I know his music. Fire There, Must Tear, and all them tunes. Those tunes were the soundtrack for me in the sound system thing. You get what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, you know, they served its purpose. Those songs served its purpose, and those songs ran alongside my life on this musical journey, which I'm still going through. You get what I'm saying? So he was a part of it, and all I can do is thank him for that. So it's with that, I'm going to bid you guys adieu for now. Hope you guys have a blessed day, blessed week. Hope everything is productive. I was supposed to voice some tunes today, but I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. Because I want to take in the sunshine. Dink, dink, dink. Dink, dink, dink. I want to take in the sunshine. We don't get it often. So, we're taking that. So it's with that, I'm going to bid you guys adieu for now. And as always, you don't know the coup. People, abstain from foolishness wherever possible. Frankie Paul, thank you for your music. Thank you for your legacy. Thank you. Magan.